Hey Sainers, welcome to Saints TV. It's Thursday night. We know what that is. Thursday night is always an interesting... Let's change that. Thursday night's always kind of an interesting night in terms of team selection. We never know what Richo is going to do. Sometimes he does things that we like. Sometimes he does things that we're still kind of like not really sure about in terms of team selection. This week though, he's done something that we didn't think that he was damn capable of doing. He dropped someone that we've been calling to be dropped for good reasons and sometimes for harsh reasons, but we've called for him to be dropped and he's actually done it, and I'm actually fucking surprised that he's done it. I don't know if you guys are surprised, but I'm freaking surprised that he's dropped Jack Billings in this game. I feel like for the last maybe almost 6 or 7 weeks he's had every chance of dropping Billings and Nunes every week, and he never did it. I thought Nunes was very close a couple of times, more so than Billings, and I just figured that Billings was going to be the type of player that we can't afford to drop him because he might want to leave at the end of the year, or he's obviously too good for Sandringham and he's not going to get any sort of benefit of going to Sandy and getting 30 or 40 touches and then just coming straight back in like a Loney does, where he dominates AFL level, VFL level, and then he comes in and he's not as good as AFL level. And I feel like Billings is the type of player that you just got to leave him in and he'll grow into the team at some point. But Richo hasn't done that. He's dropped him, and he's dropped a couple of players actually. I've got the teams here. He's dropped Geary, who's obviously injured still, Brandon White, dropped Rowan Marshall. I was surprised to be dropped, and obviously Billings. In comes in Nathan Brown, which I think is a good call because obviously Buddy Franklin, Logan Austin can't handle it on his own, and we've obviously got Jake Carlisle who's still out for another week, so having another tall there with Logan is actually going to be a big benefit, even if it's just Nathan Brown who can just play deep and just play man on man and maybe allow Logan to be the more rebounder like the Carlisle that can intercept marks and then create the attack going that way. Josh Battle, congrats to him, he's finally got a chance, and I feel like having Membry, McCutton and Battle, it's a bit more mobile. Well, you know what we're going to get from Battle. He's a tall, mobile sort of forward, plays a very similar role to Membry, but maybe it does allow Membry to go up the ground a bit more, or even better, after Membry's kicked 6 straight. It could give him a chance to just stay deep and kick goals. Luke Dunstan, who's always been in and out of the team, he's a player that I've said could be the future captain of the Saints Footy Club, but he just can't do it on a consistent basis in terms of disposals and efficiency. Hopefully this week he comes in and he does a good job, because I really like Dunstan. He gives us that inside grunt, and you can tell that even when he's not performing, he actually gives a shit about how he's performing personally, but he also cares about how his team's performing, and that's why I think he's a great candidate for captain. On that note though, Seb Ross is captain for the next 2 games, so he's captaining against Sydney. And then I think we play Gold Coast on the Gold Coast. So congrats to Seb Ross. I think he's picked up his game the last couple of weeks, as has most of the team, apart from Billings, when you think about it. So that's probably the reason why Billings has been dropped. And no doubt, I reckon if Jack Nunes hadn't kicked those 4 goals and kind of gone on and gotten better, I reckon he would have been one to be dropped at this point. It seems as though Richo said to them at some point, okay, I'm going to give you another couple of games. We'll try a few different things out. If it doesn't work, you might have to go back to Sandy. And clearly with Nunes going forward, he's kicked 4, against Collingwood. He's done well in kicking a couple of goals a week since then. But Billings hasn't done it. So I feel like maybe Richo, if I was the coach, I would have put the challenge to them a couple of weeks ago and said, look, I'll give you a couple more weeks. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to have to drop you and try some new blokes that are fighting hard at Sandy. And I see that being the case with Jack. And obviously with Nunesi, he's performed. So he's picked up his game. So he's taken that challenge, whereas Billings hasn't. So I can see where Richo's coming from a coaching point of view. And then lastly, Caulfield's back. So Caulfield just was rested a couple of weeks ago. He's been out. He was basically dominant and best on ground for Sandy in the VFL last week. So it was always going to be, I think, an in for me. I knew he was going to come in, especially when Geary's been dropped. So you can see when you go with the ins and outs, they're basically like for like. Like, it doesn't seem like it, but you can see that it is. So you've got Geary, who plays kind of half-back flank running off there. Caulfield comes in to swap in there. You've got Brandon White, who comes out, and that is obviously another defender. Brown comes in, is a defender. Then you've got Josh Battle replacing Rowan Marshall there. They're forwards, I guess. And then you've got Billings out for Dunstan. Sorry, I've got those mixed up. But you can see how there's mids and forwards and defenders there. They're all the same type. But it's just going to be interesting to see how we go. And in terms of the emergencies, I didn't even see this, but Long is an emergency, Joyce is an emergency, the Irishman, and Ben Patton's an emergency. So he hasn't been an emergency, I don't think I've seen. But it looks like he was probably very close to getting a gig this week. I had a few little sources telling me that Ben Patton's knocking down the door big time. So he might be next week depending on how some of these new guys go. But I'm excited to see another guy like Josh Battle back, Nick Caulfield, along with Ed Phillips, along with Hunter Clark. You've got some. Who else is the other guy? Rice as well has been really good. Logan Austin. There's a lot of new faces, so it's kind of exciting. And I genuinely, I'll get to the point. I genuinely think we can actually do Sydney this weekend. We were excellent in the second half of that game against West Coast, particularly the last 20 minutes. We kicked 7 goals to 1 in the last quarter and got it down from 48 points to 13. But I feel like we're getting our game back. We're playing with a certain urgency. We're not slow with the ball. We're not bombing it to the wings. We're going down the middle. We're playing non-compromising football, which I love. It is high risk at times, which we saw against West Coast. Second you turn the ball over, you concede. But at home at Etihad against Sydney, who haven't been that good, I reckon there might be something about it. Sydney, I think they're 3rd or 4th on the ladder, but if you look at who they've beaten and the top teams they've played and how they've performed against them, they haven't been that consistent. They've been okay at home. They've lost a few games. But there's every chance that we can do them. If you watched their game last week against Carlton on Friday night, they won by 30 points, but Carlton were in it for most of the game. So apart from if you can stop Buddy Franklin, which I think is Nathan Brown coming in is going to help us a shitload in that respect. If we can get the ball out of defence cleanly and then just play kind of what we did last week through the middle. We've got Gresham in good form. Membry's picking up his game. Paddy's been good. Battle's going to give us a different sort of dimension. Along with Loney, who's bobbing up for a goal a week. I'm actually pretty confident. I'm actually pretty excited. This is one game in the last couple of weeks where I'm genuinely going. And if we're not in the game in the 4th quarter, I'm going to be disappointed. I know that you guys are going to some of you will say, well, Sydney, you've kind of bossed us around the last couple of years, which they have, and they've done that to a lot of teams, not just us. But I've got some sort of optimism about this. I don't know. Maybe Geary out of the lineup. The other blokes have to lift. To be fair, no offense to Geary, but when he was off in the second half of the game against West Coast last week, I thought our backline looked more stable. So nothing against him, but it looked more balanced with Austin there, Rice, White, Webster in amazing form. So I'm kind of confident. I'll go through some of your comments because I forgot to do that last time because I was busy. But let's keep going. Jack's his thoughts on Logan Austin versus Lance. Any defender, even Alex Rance, would have a tough time with Buddy Franklin, but I feel like it's going to be a team defence. It always is against Franklin. We just need to stop him from taking marks. He's good at ground level, but he's better when he can take marks from 50, and he's going to go for goal every time. So we're just going to have to make sure that anytime he leads, there's players in front of him and behind him, which is why I like Nathan Brown behind and Logan Austin hopefully cutting out. And Webster's obviously going to have a task. There's no doubt Richo has told him that, you're going to have to come off your man at times and actually go and take out Buddy and intercept the ball, which I'm fine with. Pete says, I'm happy to see Richo keep some faith in Loney. I reckon he's had a lot of potential. Yeah, he's been good the last couple of weeks. Hasn't done anything that's deserved him being dropped, and no one's really called out that small forward position, which has saved him. I think if Ben Long's in, you probably take Loney out, but at this point, he's injured. You got to play him. Darren says Billings does need a run in the twos. He needs to get his form back. There might be a way of getting his confidence back. He can go there and have 40, kick 5 goals. I'll be interested to see how he goes mentally, because I feel like he's the sort of player that thinks he's probably better than most players on the pitch, but that's making him complacent too. So he needs to go back and realise that there are other blokes working harder than him, and maybe it's not all about skill, but it's just about the effort that he puts in on the field. Brenda says, glad Battle is in. So am I. It's been a long time coming. Rahman says, no Bruce yet. I think Bruce is very close. It's good to see Brown come in, and Nathan Freeman's very close as well, from what I've heard. Brucey could be another week. Obviously, I don't know if we'd travel him to the Gold Coast, so they might just keep him under wraps until we come back to Melbourne, and I think we have the week off then, and then play Melbourne, I think, at the MCG. So it could be, a good another 3 weeks for him to just sort himself out. Everyone seems to be happy that Battle's in. Who is captain? Matthew, I think someone commented, but I'll answer anyway. It's going to be Seb Ross for 2 weeks. Pete says, Weller and a pick or player to Gold Coast for Aaron Hall. Thoughts? I've liked Weller. I'd hate to see him go, but Aaron Hall's a really good player, and he's a good midfielder. But I don't know. Do we want an Aaron Hall? Do we want to waste a pick on that anyway, or do we just want to go hard for a Gaff or a McGovern or a Tom Lynch from Gold Coast instead, So, interesting there. David says Weller is worth a pack of crisps. He's just answered your question there, mate. Stuart says, should be playing Membry the same as last week. Yeah, closer to goal. He's got his goal-kicking form back. His confidence in his run-up and his kicking technique, so you don't want to play him too high up the ground. That's why I think maybe a Battle could be that outlet out of defence. Membry kind of roaming half forward, and then Paddy deep. Patton was emergency last week. Thanks for telling me, guys. Katie says, let's go Saints. Teach those Swans who's boss. That would be good. Brett says, love if Gresh and Skunk were both on fire this week. Yeah, they've both been on fire at different times. One's kicked 6 against Richmond. One's kicked 6 against West Coast, which is good to have players that can kick bags against the top teams. We just need to do it as a collective this week. And imagine if everything clicks. It will be fairly ominous if we can do that. Anastasia says, I really love the look at the Saints lineup, especially this week, and how Richo is giving a lot of our young players a chance. I like that too. I think it's kind of given us a bit of energy, making all these changes and bringing all these new blokes in, and they're going to go hard. They don't want to be dropped, so they're going to go very hard. It just depends on how good they are when they're going that hard, but I'm keen to see how they go. Emmett says, we need Nathan Freeman. What are your thoughts? Yeah, we need Nathan Freeman, but we haven't seen much of him. We haven't seen him at all at AFL level, so there's so much hype. Have we had this much hype over a Saint that has never debuted in his life? Like, he's never played AFL football, in that environment. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but hopefully he can handle it when he comes in. Charlie says, if Lance doesn't tear us a new one, we're a chance. That's the case anytime we play Sydney. If Lance doesn't perform, we're a chance. But so far in the last 4 or 5 times we played them, he's bloody performed and they've beaten us easily. So this week's the week that we really need to keep him to 1 or 2 goals. Any more than that, and it's getting shaky. Chris says, youngest and least experienced team for a while, good signs for the future. I agree. I think they're all getting exposure, and you can see the improvement. We talk about, our coaches not improving the players, but you see Hunter Clark, he's 10 times the player he was since round 1. Caulfield's just come in and dominated and played great football. Phillips looks like a ready-made mid. Logan Austin's come in and done amazingly. He's gotten 50 possessions in 2 weeks at fullback, which is amazing. Rice looks comfortable. Brandon White's dropped, but he's been very good. Ben Long's come in and been our best small forward for a long time, apart from Gresh. There's a lot of improvement from these blokes, but it's surprising we talk about that because we expected the improvement from Billings, from Nunes, from those guys. It hasn't happened, but maybe these guys picking up is going to help lift the rest of the team. Bruce is going to play VFL, apparently, Stephen says, which is good if he does. We don't want Aaron Hall. Gaff is what we need, 100%. Happy to see Battle in. Bruce and Freeman need match fitness first, yeah. No doubt they'll go to Sandy and get match fitness, and then hopefully, if their form's good, there'll be a chance next week. Jordan's just asked why I'm doing it in my car. Because, I don't know, there's a better acoustics in here. My house is quite echoey, high ceiling. Also, I just got home from work and I wanted to do this straight away before I get stuck into dinner and stuff like that. And I'm busy for the rest of the afternoon. And I like it. I kind of have done this from the start, so it's kind of just a thing that I've done. It's a bit different to how other Facebookers do their previews, so I just like doing it. It's a bit more personal as well, just talking one-on-one. Sam says, is there room to play Bruce, Membry, McCartan, and Battle? Shit, that's 4 talls. That's probably too many. I don't think so. It's going to be tough, but you'd love them all in the same forward line if you could fit them. And David, lastly, says, White is exceptionally stiff. I thought White was very good. I thought everyone apart from maybe Billings was very good last week. So the fact that he's been dropped is really harsh. But no doubt he's the type of player that he looks like he'll go back to Sandy, he'll perform, and he'll be every chance for the rest of the season to be a performer in our backline. And it's just good that he's had that exposure. Rice has obviously been very good, and White has given us good rebound. And obviously can't forget Mackenzie came in last week, guys. And